Good evening, welcome to ITV News. This is Wednesday's calendar.
Hello, thank you for joining us, and here are tonight's main stories.
A farmer is sentenced after a woman was left with life-changing injuries after being trampled by cows in a North Yorkshire field.
Warnings from South Yorkshire Fire Service as it's revealed that only a tenth of high-rise landlords have supplied vital safety information following the Grenfell Tower tragedy.
Hit for 9, Mansfield break records as hapless Harrogate gets a hammering.
And love is in the air. The care home couples who've clocked up hundreds of years of marriage between them. But first tonight, a woman who was almost trampled to death by a herd of cows which left her unconscious and with multiple injuries says she's surprised that a fine of just a few £100 has been imposed on the farmer.
Yannicka Dvet was convinced she was going to die when cattle knocked her off her feet and pinned her to the ground as she walked on a public footpath in the Yorkshire Dales.
Today the farmer was fined £770 for breaching health and safety laws and told he simply hadn't done enough to keep the public safe. John Hill reports.
It was terrifying, but my instincts for survival kicked in, and it was only after the attack was over that I realised that my life was at risk and that there was something seriously wrong with my abdomen.
Yannicka Dvet relives the moment she almost died. She was walking her dog on a public footpath in this field near Massam when she rounded a hedge and was confronted first by 1 cow, then 2, then 3, then 15.
One of them headbutted me in the knee, knocked me over, the dog ran off and I found myself lying on my back on the floor. And then the second cow proceeded to raise itself up on its hind legs and trample me 6 or 7 times on my leg, my abdomen, my arm and my face and head.
Yannicka suffered 7 broken ribs, a broken thumb, bruises to her abdomen, but worse than that, she required emergency surgery to section her colon. She lost consciousness climbing a tree while fleeing the cattle.
I climbed about 4 foot and on the ivy that was surrounding the tree, and I dug my fingers into the ivy and I passed out 3 times whilst I was in the tree.
Today, the farmer who managed the land, 70-year-old Martin Falshar from Massam, was fined £770 with £4,500 prosecution costs after admitting breaching health and safety laws. The court heard that Martin Falshar had spent a lifetime in farming as an experienced stockman, but he simply hadn't taken reasonable steps to ensure that walkers crossing his land on a public footpath could be kept safe. There were no fences in place to separate walkers from cattle with calves, and the warning signs that were there were inadequate.
I was quite surprised at the leniency. But the important thing for me is the message is out there, cattle are not safe, and I want to make sure that this doesn't happen to anybody else.
I would urge members of the public to be aware of the risks and to follow the countryside code, and also farmers, where it's possible, to avoid putting cattle, particularly cows with calves at foot, in fields where members of the public have a legal right to walk.
Martin Falshar offered his sincere apologies for what had happened, but left the court without further comment. Yannicka Dvet hopes that by speaking out, she can spare other walkers a similar ordeal. John Hill, ITV News, York.
The man on trial for the murder of a Bradford policewoman almost 20 years ago had a party with the other men who've already been convicted over the killing, a court's been told. Pirandita Khan is accused of being the mastermind behind an attempted robbery at a travel agent's. PC Sharon Beshenivsky was shot dead as she responded to reports of the incident. The court heard how Khan, now 75, had been out with his accomplices the night before the raid, drinking champagne and visiting a brothel. He denies murder and possessing a firearm.
Just 10% of landlords of high-rise residential buildings in South Yorkshire have supplied fire safety information, which came into law a year ago in response to the Grenfell Tower fire. Landlords for buildings 18 metres or higher have to provide information to the fire service about the building's layout, any cladding it might have, or any fire protection measures that are installed. But so far, the service has only received information for around 20 of the 200 high-rise buildings in the county.
Grenfell was a dreadful tragedy. Hopefully, I'm sure we'll never see that again. However, what we need to do is we need to do everything possible to make sure that that is mitigated and these risks are managed. Now we know about this, now that we've experienced this, we must do everything we can to make sure we can stop it happening again. It's really not about enforcement and everything. It's about a flow of information between responsible people and the fire service to keep the public safe and to keep our firefighters safe so they can carry on protecting the people of South Yorkshire.
Next this evening to the planning row which has hit a countryside business and the local community after claims that council red tape is putting a brake on his attempts to diversify.
James Hill says that rising costs have forced him to find new ways of making money, prompting him to successfully launch milkshake vending machines 2 years ago.
Well, his most popular machine is at his farm near Penistone, but planning bosses have ordered its immediate closure, despite the fact it is allowed to operate in a farm building just metres away. Jonathan Brown has the story.
It's dairy farming, but not quite as you know it. Robotic milking machines are helping the 120 cattle here express 3,500 litres every day, and they're a must because it's cheaper than doing it by hand.
We're on the floor basically, and we had to do something different.
For James, whose family has farmed here since 1947, that's not the only way they've had to try and be financially savvy. He says these milkshake vending machines have quite literally saved the business. The busiest of them opened in these temporary sheds on his farm 2 years ago.
Things had got pretty desperate. The feed prices, electricity prices, everything you touch, fertiliser prices were all increasing. It'd be a lot easier if we could just get a fair price selling it through the supermarkets.
In December, after 12 months of waiting, Barnsley Council approved plans for the building of a permanent vending site, garden and driveway here. In the meantime, the milkshakes have stayed here. Last week, though, after a complaint, they were told that they have to stop selling from these temporary sheds immediately. But it is within planning rules to use old, small, existing farm buildings for the vending machines. It just so happens to be that there's one over here, 20 metres away. So after a lot of expense, they're reopening this afternoon. The rush to get the bunting up and the machines in was prompted by a huge outpouring of support from customers online, some turning up in person within minutes of its relaunch.
I just think it's really important to support local businesses and get fresh milk. It's delicious.
I love coming here for kids and that. Kids absolutely love it. It's probably one of the best milk places we've had in South Yorkshire.
The support from the local community has been incredible. I was just saying we got very emotional last night actually looking through the messages of support that we've had from people in the local area.
Does it make you feel a bit more optimistic that you do have that support and backing?
I do, yeah. It is very nice to see everybody coming together and backing us basically, but I'm just waiting for the next problem, to be fair.
In a statement, Barnsley Council said it's unfortunate that the relocation and adaptation of the silo has been delayed, but following complaints and to fulfil our duty and make sure that all planning regulations are followed, we have requested that the business close the sheds. For James, though, the hard work continues trying to keep this picturesque piece of family history alive as the challenges loom large over an entire industry. Jonathan Brown, ITV News, near Penistone.
Well, we covered that story because some of the people who used that facility got in touch with us on Facebook. And of course, we always want to hear from you. Another way of getting in touch, of course, is through email. And our address is, well, there on the screen now, calendar@itv.com. That's calendar@itv.com.
Yes, thanks for your company tonight. Still to come on the programme this evening. The Rugby League players learning vital life-saving skills on Restart a Heart Day.
And the mild theme continues over the next few days, but there will be some outbreaks of rain at times. Join me later for all the details.
Now, next tonight, Laura, would you be happy to pay around £18 to have a look inside York Minster?
Probably, because it is quite an incredible heritage site, isn't it?
Still a lot of money, isn't it, for a lot of people? What about £30 to visit another cathedral?
See, I think that's maybe pushing it a bit. Yeah, although nowadays a lot of cathedrals in this country do charge, don't they? They charge the public to go into them and have a look around them, unless they're actually attending for a service, and then it's free.
Yes, well, with running costs for larger cathedrals up to £30,000 a day, you can see why it is putting people off visiting religious sites. You know, that's the problem, isn't it? Kevin Ashford can tell us more.
York Minster, a place of worship and a popular visitor attraction. And as in a number of places in the country, those visitors have to pay to look around to help with the upkeep.
We have a 100-year rolling programme to ensure that we are always maintaining the very precious glass and stonework. On a building of this scale and of this kind, it is a constant source of attention. And if we failed to do that, bits of it would start to fall down, which nobody would want. So it is an ongoing, complex programme of maintenance.
Cathedrals get limited funding from the Church of England and the government, and they rely on donations and legacies, as well as income they can generate themselves to pay for their running costs, which can vary from £2,000 a day for smaller cathedrals up to £30,000 a day for the larger ones like York Minster. Visitors to this free entry cathedral say charging could put some people off.
It should be a place of worship and that you can go any time during the day. You know, if you've lost a relative and you feel like just going into a church and saying a few prayers, but you know, you don't want to pay sort of £10 or whatever.
People want to come into a church at any time, and you know, not everyone can afford it, not everyone's got the money, so if there's a charge it would put a lot of people off.
The body that represents the country's cathedrals says charging for entry isn't necessarily a growing trend, but all cathedrals need to tackle the challenge of covering costs whatever way they can.
Locally, it's really important, of course, to think about how they can sustain those holy places which are part of the life of our nation, the history of this place. So no, not necessarily a trend, but it's part of the reality of the life of every cathedral.
The authorities stress that entry to all cathedrals is free at times of worship and for when people are in need. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
They are beautiful buildings, aren't they, cathedrals? Well, the ITV Evening News continues here at 6:30. Here's a look at what's happening with Mary Nightingale.
Coming up in the programme, the shop workers under increasing threat of violence and abuse. New data reveals a surge in retail crime with close to 1,500 incidents reported every day. A fall in food prices for the first time in more than 2 years as inflation remains unchanged. We'll explain what it means for you. And 40 years to the day since that iconic Olympic win, Torvill and Dean hang up their skates. Well, join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
It can't be 40 years, can it? Never.
I remember it really clearly, do you?
Absolutely. Well, talk about sport. Let's get our sport.
Zero Accounting Software sponsors ITV Regional Sports Report.
And Chris is with us in the studio once again. Hello, Chris.
Hello.
Now then, we don't often start the sport talking about Mansfield Town, but I think we have to tonight, don't we?
We certainly do, Ian, yeah, but let's just spare a thought for those Harrogate Town fans as well. I'll tell you why in just a second. It was a pre-Valentine's Day massacre at the One Call Stadium last night. Mansfield beating Harrogate 9-2. Certainly no love lost shown by the Stags, who raced into a 5-0 lead before half-time. Let's not forget, though, Harrogate were unbeaten in the calendar year so far. Their manager, Simon Weaver, was named Manager of the Month just a few days ago. I think it's fair to say they had an off night, although they did score twice in 2 second-half minutes to make it 6-2. Mansfield, though, showed no mercy whatsoever, scoring 3 more goals to rack up that 9-2 victory. That equals their biggest ever win and is also the first time a Football League team has scored 9 goals in one match since 1998.
Amazing. I bet your eyes were popping out when you watched that.
They were, yeah. I thought they were going to get 10 at one point. I was going to cope.
They could have done. So plenty of goals in that one. And then there was another one-sided game, wasn't there?
Yeah, a massively significant night, this one, for Leeds United, Lara. Their 4-0 win at Swansea, coupled with Southampton's defeat at Bristol City, means they're now second spot in the Championship table. The tone for Leeds' win was set in the first 10 minutes. Crescencio Somerville's deflected effort put them ahead before Joel Pirou scored against his former club to make it 2. Willie Gnonto then scored twice either side of half-time to complete Leeds' biggest away win in almost 3 years. Elsewhere, Sheffield Wednesday were architects of their own downfall at top of the table Leicester, who didn't need a helping hand but were given one anyway, with Wednesday trying and failing to play out from the back. And then an old flame, Jamie Vardy, who was released by Wednesday as a youngster, scored Leicester's second. And it was yet another disappointing night for Rotherham, who, despite going ahead, were beaten 2-1 by Hull, for whom Jadon Philogene scored this outrageous goal. Lionel Messi, eat your heart out. Into League One, and Barnsley left it late to earn a point at Shrewsbury. A clumsy challenge in the box allowing Herbie Kane to equalise from the penalty spot 2 minutes into stoppage time. Now, what a difference a week makes for Bradford City in League Two. They followed up Saturday's morale-boosting win at Wrexham with their biggest league win since 2018 last night. The Bantams putting 4 past the MK Dons without reply. And Doncaster too look to be heading for successive wins after Hakib Adelakan put them 2-1 up at Salford. But their hearts were broken a minute from time when Luke Garbett equalised. And talking of hearts, as we all know, it's Valentine's Day today, but would you know what to do if someone's heart stopped? Well, as part of Restart a Heart Day, this morning rugby league players from England women's under-18s team learned CPR and were shown how to use a defibrillator by members of the Yorkshire Ambulance Service. Only 1 in 10 people survive a cardiac arrest, and starting CPR early can more than double the chances of survival.
Massively important in terms of the rise of accidents like Christine Eriksen in football, and gives us more confidence if a situation ever came up.
It can happen like in a rugby game, say your physio's a bit far away and you just want to get it started, or like in a real life situation where you're just walking down the street and you see someone's like having a heart attack or going into cardiac arrest, you can help them.
It's about giving them the confidence and the competence to act. So giving them the confidence to be able to intervene, to recognise that somebody's in a cardiac arrest, but then the competence to be able to start CPR and even go and get a defib and deliver a shock as well.
Yeah, really good scheme that. Now, just before I go, Sheffield United manager Chris Wilder has been charged by the FA for those bizarre comments about an official eating a sandwich in front of him. He got himself into a bit of a pickle there, didn't he, with those comments?
He certainly did, Chris. Yeah, thank you for that.
Enjoy your pickle Valentine's meal tonight.
Oh, well, is that what I'm having?
I don't know.
Surprise,
You're not having it with me.
Now, love really is in the air at a North Yorkshire care home this Valentine's Day, as it claims to be one of the most romantic places in our region.
Clocking up literally hundreds of years of marriage between them. The home has 6 couples celebrating decades of endless love. But Cupid hasn't quite put away his bow and arrow at the home in Harrogate. We sent our very own little cherub, Martin Fisher, along to find out a wee bit more.
Love is in the air, everywhere I look around.
There really does seem to be something in the air at Anchor's The Manor Care Home. Although not in their first flush of youth, these couples are as inseparable as the day they first met.
What attracted you to this young man, Audrey?
Oh, his personality. Personality and very soft manners.
So what's going on? Is there really something in Harrogate's famous water?
I can't answer that. I like to think it's maybe the water or the air or something of Yorkshire. You know, Harrogate, I don't know, but it's wonderful.
I was running a dance. Peter came in, took one look at him, dropped the boyfriend that I had at the time, and Peter and I just clicked.
And still holding hands.
Oh, indeed.
Yeah.
It's the only way we can stand there.
Now, it's wonderful that these couples have spent so many years together and can do so still here at this care home. But for this Valentine's Day, it's not just about people who've been together a long time. For some lovebirds, they're just starting out. Jeff is 90 and Kathleen 85 and got engaged last November after meeting at the home.
Were you expecting to find romance again?
Yeah. What, at the age of 90? No, not realistically.
Has he bought you anything for Valentine's Day?
Yes, I've got a beautiful diamond set, which is earrings and a drop.
You're setting the bar very high for us, Jeff.
I know. I have a lot to answer for.
So does the romantic flame still burn brightly here? Depends who you ask.
I've never been there. This is the least romantic person I've ever...
That's a bit harsh after 63 years.
Yeah, it's a bit, yes. Well, I'm used to it by now.
So whether it's in the air or in the water, who knows? Love very much springing eternal here in Harrogate. Martin Fisher, ITV News.
Oh,
give us a kiss.
I don't think
I'm only joking.
I was going to say it warms the cockles of your heart, doesn't it?
It certainly does. Look at this as well. No expense spared.
No, I know.
Here we go. Something for you there, Laura.
It's plastic as well.
Go on, you can that.
Oh, thanks.
Let's get the weather, shall we?
Good visibility on the horizon. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Hello again. Hope you've all had a lovely day so far. Well, temperatures have been exceptionally mild across the UK throughout today, close to 17 degrees in places. We continue that mild theme as we go through the next few days, but at times there will be some outbreaks of rain, but there will be a bit of sunshine in between too. So let's take a look at the current setup. Well, low pressure generally dominating. We're going to see a system moving its way through the region tonight, bringing further spells of rain. But you can see the winds continue to drive up from a southerly direction, and that's what's going to keep our temperatures on the mild side. So for the rest of tonight, we've got some clear skies around, but that cloud will continue to thicken up and we will be seeing some outbreaks of rain, and some of that rain will be heavy in places too, but it is bringing even milder air, so not falling below 10 degrees. So it will be a very mild start to the day on Thursday morning, but quite grotty, cloudy with some outbreaks of rain at first, but then it will perk up. We'll see some bright or sunny spells developing, and then a bit more rain coming our way later on in the afternoon. But once again, with the winds coming up from a southerly direction, our temperatures well above average for the time of year. Highs there 15 or 16 degrees. 16 is 61 in Fahrenheit. And as we go through Thursday night, there will be some spells of rain for a time, but then that moves out of the way. And we do have a ridge of high pressure across the south on Friday. So for most of us, a good deal of dry weather to end the working week, but temperatures not quite as mild, although still well above average for the time of year. Then looking ahead towards the next few days, cloudy, but staying on the mild side. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Thanks very much, Amanda. Now that it's not just people that are feeling the love today, is it?
No, it's not. The four-legged residents at Leeds Donkey Sanctuary have been enjoying some Valentine's treats too. But here they are. Staff at the centre in Eckert created some heart-shaped goodies for the donkeys, made from carrots, apples, beetroot and, of course, strawberries, which, as you can see, the 25-strong herd wasted no time tucking into.
Oh, they're having a great time on there. Do you know, actually, donkeys actually bond for life and eat and graze in pairs? Wherever one goes, the other will follow.
Just like us?
Well, I was going to say I should take you out for a slap-up meal tonight, Laura. All on me, you know, my treat.
But you know I'm on late, so that would never happen. Thanks for watching. Mary's next.
Good night.
See you later.
What a shame.
I know.